A Love Letter in Florence by Simon Cross. The narrow, cobbled streets of Florence hummed with life, their stone buildings echoing with the sounds of bustling cafes, the soft laughter of locals, and the steady rhythm of footsteps. Evelyn Bennett adjusted her hat as she stepped off the carriage, her eyes scanning the unfamiliar city. The year was 1894, and Italy was alive with the charm of art, music, and whispered tales of love that threaded through its timeless air. Evelyn was a 24-year-old artist, or so she insisted to her skeptical father back in London. With her watercolors, worn brushes, and a restless spirit, she had finally convinced her family to allow her a summer in Florence. It wasn't just the promise of art that had called her, it was the idea of Florence. Its legends of beauty, romance, and discovery stirred her heart. The Albergo della Stella, her modest lodging, overlooked the Piazza della Signoria. From her small balcony, the statue of Perseus shimmered in the sunlight. Evelyn sighed deeply, a tinge of loneliness mingling with excitement. "It's not so different from the paintings," she murmured, sketchbook already in hand. But for all its beauty, Florence was still a city of strangers. Evelyn spent her first week immersed in routine, visiting the Uffizi, wandering the Boboli Gardens, and sketching along the Arno River. Florence, she soon realized, was like a lover itself, beguiling, unpredictable, and filled with secrets waiting to be uncovered. It was on a particularly warm afternoon in the Pitti Palace Gardens that Evelyn first met Luca. She had been seated beneath an olive tree, sketching a cluster of wildflowers. A shadow fell across her paper, and she looked up abruptly. Standing before her was a young man, no older than 30, with unruly dark hair and sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He held a book in one hand and a pencil in the other, as though he too had been caught mid-thought. "Forgive me, signorina," he said in perfect but heavily accented English. "I did not mean to disturb." Evelyn blinked at him, taken aback. You speak English?" The man grinned, a dimple appearing on his left cheek. "Better than you might expect. I study languages and art." "An artist?" Evelyn lowered her sketchbook. "A humble admirer of beauty," he corrected with a soft laugh. "I am Luca Costa." "And you?" "Evelyn Bennett. I'm from London." Their conversation flowed easily, as though they had known each other for far longer than the passing minutes. Evelyn soon learned that Luca was a Florentine by birth but had spent years abroad, first in Paris, then Vienna, studying classical art and architecture. He was charming but not imposing, earnest in his passion for the city he called home. When they parted ways, Luca bowed slightly. "If you seek the heart of Florence, signorina, may I suggest you visit San Miniato a Monte at sunset? I promise you will understand everything." Evelyn's heart fluttered as she watched him disappear into the garden paths. She had come to Florence to find inspiration, not companionship, and yet Luca had left an indelible mark on her day. The following evening, Evelyn climbed the steep hill to San Miniato a Monte, a Romanesque basilica overlooking Florence. Her breath came heavy, but when she turned back toward the city, the sight stole it away completely. Below her, Florence stretched out like a golden tapestry. The Arno shimmered with reflections of ochre and pink, the Duomo's dome glowing as though lit from within. The sky melted into hues of lavender, then indigo. Luca had been right, this view explained everything. "Magnifico, no?" She turned sharply. There he was again, Luca, standing a few paces away with a folded sketchbook under his arm. "You have impeccable timing," she said, cheeks flushed. "Only because I knew you would come," he replied, his gaze lingering on her with unspoken meaning. They sat side by side on the basilica steps as twilight descended. Luca spoke of Florence's history, its artists, and its struggles, but his words were more than mere facts. He described the city as one might describe a dear friend or lover, with affection that could not be feigned. Evelyn listened, captivated. "You love this place deeply," she observed softly. "It is my home." "But it is more than that," he replied. "Florence teaches us to see beauty where others might not, in a chipped fresco, a cracked statue, even a quiet moment like this." They fell into a comfortable silence as stars began to appear in the sky. Evelyn's heart swelled with an unfamiliar warmth. For the first time in years, she felt as though she belonged, not just to a place, but to a moment in time. Over the weeks that followed, Evelyn and Luca spent countless hours together. They painted on bridges, explored forgotten alleys, and laughed over cups of strong espresso. Luca challenged her to see Florence through new eyes, while Evelyn's presence seemed to rekindle something in him, a light that had long been dimmed by disappointment. One afternoon, as they painted by the river, Evelyn turned to him. "Luca, why have you never left Florence? Paris, Vienna, they must have offered more opportunity." Luca hesitated before answering. I lost my father when I was a boy. He was a stonemason. Before he died, he told me that Florence, this city, is made of stories. I vowed to find them all. He gestured to the cityscape. But I suppose, in chasing stories, I forgot to write my own. Evelyn looked at him, her heart aching. Perhaps you just haven't met the right co-writer yet. Luca's eyes met hers, and for a moment, everything stilled. The breeze, the lapping water, the chatter of passers-by, all fell silent. Perhaps, he whispered. The summer days passed too quickly, like sand slipping through Evelyn's fingers. As September neared, reality returned with unwelcome haste. Evelyn would soon have to go back to London. On their final evening together, Luca took her to the Ponte Vecchio. The bridge glowed with lantern light, and the Arno reflected their flickering flames. Promise me something, Luca said, his voice low. Don't let London steal your light. Keep painting. Keep seeking beauty. Evelyn nodded, her throat tight. And you, Luca, promise me you will write your story. Luca smiled sadly. I already have, Evelyn. You are in every chapter. She knew then that goodbyes were inevitable, even in Florence, a city of timeless beauty. Luca pressed a small package into her hands before walking her to the carriage. Open it when you are home, he said softly. As the carriage pulled away, Evelyn looked back one last time. Luca stood beneath the lanterns, a lone figure against the vast, ancient city. Back in London, Evelyn opened the package. Inside was a small, leather-bound notebook. Its pages were filled with sketches, Florence as seen through Luca's eyes. On the final page was a note. Evelyn. Florence gave me its beauty, but you gave me its soul. Wherever you are, know that a part of you remains here, in every sunset, every stone, every story. With all my heart, Luca. Tears slipped down Evelyn's cheeks as she closed the notebook. Florence had changed her. Luca had changed her. And though their paths had diverged, their story would live on, like the timeless city itself,